what are the benefits about cloud, and I think the whole cloud as a concept has been beaten to death. Then when these guys approached me and you said, are you interested to speak on cloud? And I spent about 10 to 15 minutes and say, what else is left out to speak on cloud? I think every single topic, every single area has been blown out to the details as if everything is happening. Then I said, what, if I have to pick the interest, let me take it and let me make it a little bit controversial, or at least make the title sound a little bit controversial. And I know this is an evening session, and being the last session, it works as a double-edged sword. One is, I don't have to worry about the time. If you really like it, we can continue as much as we want, and we can have a nice conversation. The other part of it is, if you don't like it, then we can wrap up early and call it as a day. And I hope that you take that as a farmer, and I'll try to make it as interactive as possible. So in this session, it's a twofold. So first, I'm going to speak about cloud anti-patterns and why I've chosen this topic, and how is this related to testing and everything. And then the second part of the session is obviously the question and answers, or probably I would rather call it as a brainstorming and sharing common thoughts on what you have seen and how you can relate to what I'm trying to present. Okay. So what was my inspiration when I actually picked up cloud anti-patterns, and then what is that I wanted to talk about? See, if you really take probably the era of 95 to 2000, we have seen the world talking about internet, right? Internet was the newest thing, and internet, the whole .com was a bubble burst, right? We all knew. I mean, people who have come out of the college in the last 6-7 years probably might not relate to it, but people who have been in the industry for a decade, every one of them can relate to this. So as long as your company has a .com extension, or as long as you have a word E-, then everybody just thought that this company is going to make millions. A lot of investors, without even knowing, they have put in a lot of money into it, and finally the whole episode entered in 2001. But before the whole thing crashed, if you really look at it, whole e-commerce was predicted in a way where that this is the next generation thing. You put something on the web, everybody is going to buy everything on the web. And there were even theories about creating virtual platforms for people. I've read some analyst articles where they said that every single communication, every single shopping will happen on the web. So in the next decade or two, the whole world is going to become virtual, and now you have to create more sessions where people can connect in person versus people are connecting in a virtual reality. When I read all of that and when I was studying, I felt it is too abnormal, and I don't think that's going to happen. But the prediction was there, the market was booming and everything. What happened? The reality is, those days, probably Amazon. How many of you don't know Amazon? None, right? All of us know Amazon, and when we go to US or something, that's the first website where we go and we try to buy everything. The same Amazon.com, when this whole bubble burst happened, the promise was the same, that I'm going to give you something faster, better and cheaper, and then I'm going to deliver it directly to your home. The returns are convenient, you can just return if you don't like. The whole promise, the fundamental concept of Amazon never changed over the decade. It is only that the market was not ready. When the whole .com boom was there, before the stock price started crashing, Amazon crashed from $107 to $7. In 2000, I remember Amazon's share price was $7. Today, if you look at it today, it's back again to $250 something. Today, we all are ready to buy things online. We all believe, even in India, there are a lot of websites, right, like Jungly, and there are so many websites who offer a lot of products, and then people are making money, and people believe in the concept of buying online, and yes, whatever I see is what I get, right? But it took a decade to make that happen. And even in terms of the virtual platforms also, that day, it was even like in a myth, and we don't even know that is that going to come. But thanks to Facebook, today, if you have your friend's birthday, or the heights I've seen is your mom's or dad's birthday, people just post it on the Facebook. And today, how many of us really pick the phone and then call a person and say, hey dude, happy birthday? All you do is early in the morning log on into Facebook. On the right side, all the list of the people's birthdays, including me actually. Okay, you just do happy birthday. And then even we as individuals, what we do, we are not looking for SMS. There are no greeting cards. What does that mean, right? All we look is, okay, I go to Facebook, how many likes I have or how many happy birthday wishes I have, and we're all happy. But probably 10 years ago, that's not the case, right? So this is the same genesis for cloud also. When we all say that, is cloud going to vanish away? No, cloud is a reality. Okay, cloud is going to be aggressively adopted for all the standard benefits what cloud is going to give you. What I'm going to present to you today is how much of whatever the hype you see is actually a reality. Okay, what is the market available for cloud versus what is the adoption patterns, and how much is a myth versus how much is practical. How really are we convinced that cloud is our future with current infrastructure? And when I mean current infrastructure, I want to make a point. Last week, I do not know how many of you have followed on GoDaddy's shutdown. For more than 24 hours, the largest hosting provider was having a security attack, or for unknown reasons they had a shutdown. Now what do I get? I get a nice apology email from the CEO. I appreciate, I mean, it is something unwanted, but let us say if that happens to my website on a Thanksgiving day or on a Black Friday. Okay, Black Friday is a day where most of the companies just make the biggest revenue for themselves, and Black Friday is a huge concept. How many of the companies can afford just an apology letter? Or how many of the contracts which you're going to sign up for a cloud providing are financially binded that, hey, tomorrow if I move my production website onto cloud platform, I understand that you are providing me a 99.99% SLA to be up, but taking that 0.01% as a failure, does any of the cloud contractor provide you a financial repay if let us say that something goes down? Have you read any such contracts? The answer is no, right? So this session is about highlighting some of those points, talking about where you should be careful in adopting cloud and what is really the journey of adopting cloud. And the more important part of it is, this is a testing conference, so I wanted to make sure that this whole thing relates to what we do for living. Okay, I believe that all of you are into the testing field, and I believe that you are part of QA. So this session is talking about what should be the role of QA, okay, when it comes to cloud adoption and when it comes to cloud migration. Are we just going to limit ourselves for V&V? The today's reality is, the answer is yes, right? Someone from a cloud ecosystem integrator is coming in and they're giving a beautiful pitch, or the CIOs or the CFOs are driving cloud because the analysts like Gartner and Forrester are giving you a lot of projections on savings. So suddenly everybody says, okay, if I'm not doing cloud, then if I go even in my own peer circle, like, do you have a Facebook account? You don't have? What, are you nerd? So it's like that, like when all the C-level meet, and then when they're going into a Gartner or a Forrester or any analyst conference, they want to just talk about, hey, I'm also into cloud, I'm one of the early adopters, these are my savings. So just because there's a C-level initiative, or a nice sales guy has walked in and then sold that these are the benefits, people are going and implementing cloud. But where does QA stand? What should be the role of QA? How do you really elevate yourself from where we are today? So those are some of the things you're going to see in today's session. Okay? I hope that sounds interesting, and that's the reason why I've put it as an anti-cloud pattern, because I want to really address something which is not touched upon in the industry, or something what you don't see in a traditional white papers or an industry material. Okay? But if you have to appreciate what we want to talk about anti-cloud, it's also equally important to see evolution. I'm sure you would have read that, but for your benefit, I have added a few slides on that as well. Okay. So what is the evolution of cloud and how do you see that? So here, the interesting part of it is, so as you see, a human evolution, it's the same way how you can relate to yourself into the cloud adoption as well. And then if you really look at it from an enterprise apps and from a social apps, how are they really coming forth into the market, and what are the different trends? Like for example, if you really talk about 1980s technology was not even the backbone of any of the major system providers. Probably technology, IT was limited to federal, military, those kind of services, and it was morely a back office function. It was never a driving factor. 1990s, thank you, a little bit of on-premise, self-operated, some self-service systems have started seeing, and thanks to the invention of internet, a lot of self-service portals have come. We have started creating something called as email IDs for ourselves as well. The communication has become a little bit more open and everything. But truly, the journey has been from 2000 to 2010. In the last 10 years, I think we are all blessed, and we should be fortunate to see so much of a technology innovation and evolution in this last one decade. if we really see from an enterprise applications point of view, from apps point of view, from technology driven applications point of view, today even we have seen some funny jokes about the pilots have dozed off and suddenly the flight has landed in Goa instead of Hyderabad. So technology has gone so much into every single part of life where technology is driving people, and that whole transformation has happened in the last two. But primarily again coming back to cloud also. So until 2000. See, again, one other thing, while I'm talking about 2000 versus 2010, I also want all of us to answer one question, okay? How many of you are familiar with virtualization? Or not familiar? Okay, familiar. Probably we started with familiar. Virtualization? Okay, handful of people. Then let me, talk a little bit more on virtualization, okay? Probably, the 1990s days before, the 2000s or the mid 2000 days, everything was standalone boxes and all of your applications were hosted on dedicated servers and each application was individually managed by a box. But then when virtualization got introduced, the whole concept was instead of having to manage 100 different servers, I'm going to have one big rack server and then I'm going to have virtualized platforms. I don't know if you have heard the VMware. VMware is one of the leading providers in virtualization platform. So where virtualization has addressed a lot of challenges what cloud wanted to address. Okay? Virtualization has already addressed it. So before you move to cloud, you want to address or understand yourself, what is cloud really solving me, what virtualization has not solved. This is primarily for the enterprises folks, okay? I'll address also for SMBs why the mentality and the mindset is different. But all of you should answer yourself, okay, I already have a virtualized platform, I have optimized my cost, I've already distributed my architecture and my applications are already quite modular. So what is this cloud really bringing onto the table for me if I've already established my infrastructure already? Okay, I have that. So what is that it is giving? There are advantages. I'm not saying that they don't have advantages, but you have to clearly distinguish what virtualization has provided you versus why you are trying to migrate into cloud. Okay. So the next slide is cloud adoption itself. Is it all real? So if you really look at it, this is the trend, or this is the journey of where you see enterprises obviously have jumped onto the cloud adoption first, and if you really look at it, almost 37% of the enterprises have gone into it. The second turns out to be education. The education platform, why virtualization or cloud is easy for them is because the e-learning. First of all, education, when technology transformation has happened, education is one of the industries who have started creating virtual classrooms. They have started promoting, disseminating the information in a more virtual. So for them, it's a natural extension that if I host it on the cloud, then the natural advantage for them is you don't have to invest the infrastructure into every single adoption where you go. You are having it in a much more centralized fashion where everybody is able to take. So I see, education industry naturally taking it. The next part of it is healthcare, and then followed by federal, and then state, and then you see SMBs today. But I guarantee you that in 12 months, if we have to refresh the snapshot and if we have to look at ourselves, the SMBs is where you will see the adoption increasing, and you will see that people are going to jump onto it and they're going to actually discuss more. Okay, and we'll see in the next slide why SMBs are going to get into that. Okay. So,
what is SMB?
Small medium business enterprises. Okay, so small medium firms is what SMBs are. Okay, so early adoption is driven by SMBs. This is the answer for you. So why it is because why small medium business enterprises? Why do they really look at cloud as a more lucrative solution? The primary simple difference is the capex versus opex. The capex and an opex is capital expenditure versus an operational expenditure, right? And in a much more relative simpler term where not going into the math, it's a very simple thing is do I want to buy a car versus lease a car? If I need a car for 3 months itself, do I want to buy a car? Probably I'll look for a rental option, right? Because I know that I need this only for 3 months. I'm here short term, but I can't survive. So I'm going to lease something. Correct or not? I don't need something to buy if I know that my duration of use is only small. That is one thing. The second thing is obviously the capital. I have to invest into something. And if you really look at it, even in India, you can relate to yourself. Today, you will see a lot of entrepreneurs, right? So thanks to this technology invasion, you will see so many people who are coming up with brilliant ideas and who really want to come into the market and make a difference for the industry and for themselves also. And the biggest challenge for any entrepreneur is capital. There's only so much budget he or she has, and they want to spend it wisely. And obviously, technology will only be a backbone until unless it's a product company, right? For a product company, product itself is their differentiator. But let us say if I'm trying to drive a business, okay? I've seen a lot of new concepts, I've seen a lot of new businesses coming up even in India, US and everywhere. For them, technology is only a backbone, technology is not their driving factor. For all of them, when they really have to invest onto the infrastructure, they really have to have a big budget onto that, and maintenance and overheads. And also we know that, the infrastructure, probably 30% or 35% is the depreciation year on your infrastructure. With all of that, they feel the pain on continuous investments into the infrastructure and technology space. For them, cloud makes a lot of difference. And I'll give you a simple example to relate is email, okay? If I have to go to Microsoft and if I have to take an Outlook and if I have to have a Outlook.com and I have my own hosting, you're talking about in Indian rupees anywhere between 50 lakhs to 1 crore of an investment to have a fully hosted Exchange server in your own premises, and you have probably 30 or 40 different licenses, but that is the cost you're looking for a server. But now with the cloud adoption and with the whole cloud, Microsoft has come up with as simple as for $2 per month you can get an email address with all of these options. Now for a small entrepreneur who's really trying to make a difference for himself, is he going to try to invest some $50,000, $60,000 or $100,000 onto an infrastructure, or would he rather take a route of where I'll probably pay $2, $6 or $8 per month, and then I'll get away, because that will give them the ease on operational expenditure spend. So a small medium business enterprise definitely goes for a cloud adoption, because for them the operational expenses, they can find money, but they don't have to invest a lot of capital in the beginning, right? So for them it is definitely lucrative. But after a certain point of time, let us say they become big, okay? Let us say the company starts hiring, the idea clicks like Facebook, where Mark has become one of the richest guys in the last 3 years or 4 years, Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook, right? So when you look at those kind of scenarios today, how many employees would Facebook have? Probably 25,000, 30,000 employees. Now would they go for a cloud solution for their email? Obviously no, right? Because now they know when you have the volume, it doesn't make sense to go for a third-party email solution. Probably you would try to host it yourself. It's the same journey. So initially you might decide to go onto cloud because you want to reduce your OpEx. But after a point of time, when you start adding your mass, then you are actually paying much higher than what you would pay if you start insourcing it. So the decision has to be wise. Okay, so every single business enterprise tries to go in this journey, but they try to differentiate themselves on what is my next 3 years or what is my next 5 years outlook and how do I want to do it. Okay. Then what is your typical ROI on cloud? How much is the return on investment? Obviously, when you are investing onto it, the first question is what is your ROI, right? So the return on investment, what you see is, this is by region. Okay, so if you look at it, US, most of the companies have seen probably 29 to 30% as a return on investment, and Asia being the highest is seeing a 33% return on investment, purely again because of the capex versus opex. And then the next you see is 100 to 499. So 100 to 500 people company has seen 28%, 500 plus 30%. Again, it depends on what services or what applications you are trying to host, so that you will see the appropriate. And then the hype versus reality is something where I want us to focus on. So 84% of the IT managers, they see that enterprises are actually adopting at least one portion of their applications. Even if nothing like production, at least their test environments today are going on to cloud. Okay, 55% believe that it has a lower TCO, purely because of the maintenance. Infrastructure needs a lot of upgrade, infrastructure needs a lot of maintenance. So 55% of them are seeing that there is a lower TCO. The next one, what you see is an interesting trend, because still today, even after seeing all the hype and seeing the whole market moving on to cloud, 79% of the companies still do not have an IT roadmap for cloud. And why is the reason? Because in the last 10 years, we also have to understand that, as I told you, virtualization was already there and a lot of enterprises have invested into their own infrastructure. So when you really have bought already the infrastructure, when you really have it, until unless you plan your next major upgrade, what is my rush to move everything to cloud and dispose this infrastructure? When I dispose this, am I going to get good money? No, right? So when you don't have it, what's the point in going? And then the next point is another interesting dimension, because 90% they are not charging end users based on their private cloud consumption. Because let us say that finally you are developing a service or you are developing a product and you are actually charging your end customers. Now there's a big gray area. From your point of view, you are trying to save money and you are trying to move away into a cheaper and economical solution. But are you really passing on the same benefits to your end users? If you are not passing on the same benefits to your end users who are actually using your service, then how does your outlook of the company financially look? Because then you don't know, are you getting cost savings because of this short-term spike? Are you really looking at a business sustenance model? Because if you are not looking at a business sustenance, initially your balance sheet might look for the next 6 months, 12 months rosy and green, but there's another company who can quickly adapt to this pattern, and if they start giving that benefit to the end users, then gone. And also, this transparency, if it is not coming all the way to the higher management, then the management also cannot look at it. So that's a completely different dimension to look at it. And these are applicable into, the companies who really operate on those, aspects of it. As simple as, like, let's say trading platform. Okay, today I'm actually charging my end users because they're using my infrastructure at a certain price and at a certain rate. Okay, now I move my entire applications onto cloud, and then let us say I'm getting 25% savings. Have I gone back and decreased at least 10% or 15% on my end user's fee? If I have not reduced it, then yes, I can see a short-term profit and a short-term spike, but there will not be a long-term sustenance onto the market, and there will not be a long-term sustenance for your own business. And when it starts crashing again, this is not going to be a savior. Then what will happen if you are a public limited company? Then you're going to lose the faith from your actual end users also. So those are your repercussion challenges, what you'll see. Anyway, so enough on the background of the cloud. Our session is all about QA, and I'm sure already you're feeling a little bit restless on, hey, we are QA engineers, what do I see for QA, what is in store for me, so that I can go back in my company and speak a little bit more intelligent on, I know cloud, right? So let's see, let's talk about cloud, and now, I want all of you to go back from this session and say, I know cloud, and also, now I know where I have to stand and where I have to speak also about cloud. It's not that I come in the, fag end of the life cycle and, just say, okay, you are adopting cloud, I tested, okay? So let us understand the life cycle of the cloud and then see what role QA has in it, okay? So when you look at characteristics of, when any single application or, when somebody decides to migrate onto cloud, these are some of the answers for yourself, okay? So these are the characteristics of any cloud where you can see, okay? Then as a service, what are you looking for? Are you looking for software as a service? Are we looking for platform? Are we looking for infrastructure as a service? Then what are your deployment models? You can have private, public, community, or hybrid, whatever you want to have. These are all the options available. Now when you look at the life cycle of the cloud migration, how does it do and how does it happen? So first of all, there is a business case. Obviously, whenever there is a transformation, you need a clear business case, right? After the business case, then obviously there is a risk assessment done. By moving on to cloud, okay, by changing from what I have as is to my future state, what are my risks, right? So they do a proper risk assessment. Now risk assessment, if it is not done properly and if it is influential, then obviously you'll know the results afterwards. But at least the companies do a formal risk assessment. Then there is a cost estimation done. Obviously, when you are moving from your as is there, you'll have some kind of cost, additional cost incurred, and you'll have a 3-year or a 5-year roadmap savings towards, what you are trying to migrate and how you are trying to do it. Then the other interesting part of it is you start doing cloud modeling. Very few companies touch upon this topic, and very few companies also talk about cloud modeling. Okay, what a cloud modeling is, that it is multifold actually. Cloud modeling is, the first thing is, given all my choices of where I want to go, okay, what is going to work for me better? probably do I want to go to Amazon Cloud? Do I want to go to Microsoft Azure platform? So what are my different models? How do I want to go? So first of all, you try to go and check what is your, service provider and what are my comparisons against each one of those service providers. This is the first decision making what you would do. Then the second part of it in your cloud modeling is what portion of my applications or what portion of your services do you want to actually move on to cloud, and what is your rationale against it? Okay. So given that you will have 10 applications, 20 or 30, and you will have different services like email, you might have your HRMS systems, you might have your goal management systems, you have your project management systems. So what are your applications which you really want to move? Okay. And then obviously sometimes the decision is also in those applications or services, what environments do I want to move? Am I really ready to move my production environment, or am I better off to move my QA or a testing environment? What do I want to do? Okay. Then the third option of your cloud modeling and most important one is your journey. When you do your journey, again this is a very interesting theory. Okay, I'm sure I bet actually you can go and search it as well. You wouldn't find. So the journey of cloud migration is, let us say that you decided that okay, I want to go with Amazon. Okay, and then you decided that given my portfolio of entire applications, I'm trying to move this piece of 20% of this chunk into cloud. Okay, when you decide, then what is your current situation? You have 80% in-house and you have 20% which you have migrated. Okay, I don't know if people are able to see, so I'll try to be as abstract on the board and try to explain more. So I'll try to put it on the top. So the third part of it is, when you do it, you are left with two scenarios. Okay, one is an as-is scenario where you have your applications in your current fully hosted environment. Then you have taken a portion of it and you have moved it into cloud. Okay, now from external world, when there is a request coming, or when you're actually trying to come in and access an application, okay, there is an intelligent router, okay, which is sitting on your firewall, and then that intelligent router is actually making a decision on which way should I transfer the request based on what type of applications, right? Because portion of it is in cloud and portion of it is in-house, correct or not?